What would you say you do here?
It's the Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast. A podcast dedicated to up-and-coming bands, labels, artists, and more. Plug in and join your host, Brad Nunnery, as he dives deep into what the future of music has to hold and discover something new along the way. What else do you have to do?
Shit.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ken from Alter Apex, and you are listening to the Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast.
That's the latest song from our friends in Alter Apex. It is called Burn. Many thanks to Ken for recording that promo for us. I really do appreciate it, man. Now, if you're a fan of this podcast or this page, you're no stranger to the band Alter Apex. But if you don't know who they are, they're a really killer grunge rock / alt metal band based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Really killer stuff from these guys. They've released a dozen bangers over the past couple years. Love what these guys are doing, and they even actually lent me their song for Soul Direction, the instrumental version. It's what you hear in the podcast intro. So many thanks to the band, as always, for all their support. If you want to find out more about Alter Apex, you can visit them on any social media platform at Alter_Apex. All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Brad Nunnery. Welcome to Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast, Season 3, Episode 5, presented by my really good friend, Jeff Small, over at 1603 Designs. My guests tonight are Dan and Tanner. They are from the band WATERFRONT, a really killer hard rock, heavy-hitting band based out of southern Alberta, Canada. They just released a EP last year. It is called Sleep in the Cold on Defiant Records. Love what these guys are doing. They're bringing the rock back, and rightfully so. It needs to be done. We're going to break down some of the songs from Sleep in the Cold. We're going to talk about life in Canada. We're also going to talk about history of the band and possible new music on the way. But right now, here is their music video for Atmosphere, and it's on Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast.
I want to have another heartbreak, to go through the pain, to feel alive again. Alive again. I know my story starts with your name, and there's a part of me that hopes it never ends. It never ends. I hope it never ends. Yeah, I can feel the tension, but there's no escape from the ecstasy. Taking over, so I gotta leave and keep you as a memory.
Dan, what's going on, man? Welcome to the podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Hey, appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be here. So,
yeah, no, it's pretty badass because you know, I've been following you guys for quite some time now, and I really love what you guys are doing. I love all the singles you've been putting out, and even your cover of Last Christmas and all that kind of stuff. That was really cool towards the end of the year, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But
nice.
Thank you so much for joining, man. How you been?
I've been good. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a bit annoyed by the cold up here in Canada, with it being
Yeah.
it's minus 30 today, but it's been minus 20 the last like 2 weeks. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite envious of you being down in Florida and probably seeing like 20-30 degree days like now. So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because we were talking before we hit record, and it actually got down to like the lower 30s overnight, and I don't know what to do because I own one sweatshirt and probably 2 pairs of jeans, so it's like I have no idea what to do, and like everybody loses their minds down here when it gets cold. It's like kind of like rain when people are driving; they just lose their minds. That's how I lose my mind when it gets cold because I don't know what to do.
oh yeah, it's the same with Alberta drivers. Like the drivers here, whenever the first snow hits, no one knows what they're doing. Literally zero. So it's great.
You got to drive like 5 miles an hour with your hazards on. Is that how it usually goes?
Basically, except people also don't have their winter tires, so they'll just be like sliding every which way. And so hazards and just literally keeping and also there's weirdly enough there's always like deer walking by, so you have to be wary of that too. So it's just so many hazards.
We have we live right near a like an environmental kind of like facility kind of a deal, and we have like deers running around our neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. And after a late night at the bar, you got to kind of put your like your high beams on and like make sure you don't hit freaking deer because it's they're constantly everywhere. But I couldn't even imagine. I've driven in snow before, and it's probably the worst experience ever. When I was in the Navy and I was in Norfolk, Virginia, and driving to the base, and it was just like the worst experience ever. A Florida kid driving in snow for the first time. It's just I don't know how you guys do it up there.
Oh yeah, no, it doubles your drive, and it's not. That like there's people who will always complain about having winter tires or not having winter tires, and I personally don't care. I'm not going to be the one to like rear end you or be rear ended into. So I'm pro winter tire, especially because some of the people around here are very stupid when it comes to winter driving. So,
well, here's Tanner. Tanner, what's happening, man?
Not too much. Just got off work. Jumped right in.
Nice. Welcome to the podcast, man. Better late than never, right?
Absolutely. And the answer is all season tires.
All season tires.
Yes.
Exhibit A.
You're going to be sliding with winters no matter what around here.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I just bought a new truck last year. It's the first time I've ever had like a truck, and it has 4-wheel drive. And taking it on the beach, I had like this old like beater back in the day, and like if you're driving on the beach and you get stuck in that sand, that soft sand, and you don't have 4-wheel drive, it's like the worst because everybody on the beach has to help you push, and it's so humiliating to try to move your vehicle and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not snow, but it's like 10 times worse because everybody's just sitting around drinking beer, watching you be an idiot and try to get your vehicle through. So now finally I have a truck and I just hit the 4-wheel drive and I'm like fine. I feel like Superman on the beach now. So it's a good habit to have.
I'm always a fan of free entertainment like that. I'd watch you on the beach and drink a beer.
No, it's cool. I've done both. I've watched them be like, oh, that sucks, and the guy's like right in front of me, and then you're just laughing and watching everybody push it. But then sometimes I'll feel bad if it's like an old lady or if it's a young kid, whatever, trying to drive a mom and dad's car through the beach and thinking that they can get through it. But no, it's funny.
I'd be there like a coach, being like, "You guys got this. Put your back into it."
Hell yeah! Well, Tanner, Dan, like I said, thank you again for joining the podcast. Lots to talk about, lot to cover. I know you guys are working on your debut album. We're going to talk about that, but I want to get into your EP, "Sleep in the Cold." I'm a huge fan of it. I just listened to it again right before the podcast, and I love it. And it's like every song. There's not one bad song on there. It's a straight rock, hard rock feel to it. There's no mystery in any of your songs, and that's a really great thing. I just love putting it on and listening to it. Is that always kind of the goal with Waterfront? Is just to write these songs and just put them out there, just the way that they are and in your sound? And how do you define your sound, really? I know
That's
it's a
a
multi-layer
good question.
but
it all comes to try and keep it simple. We approach it where at the end of the day, the bones of the song have to be good. Where in theory, from wherever we start, you can make a pop song out of it, you can make a country song out of it, but then we make waterfront rock songs out of it. If you can strip it down and play it at a campfire, is it still good? Okay, good. If we can get it to that point, the rest is just like, let's make it sound really wicked by then. But yeah, it's ultimately any given song. How good can we make that song? And we've delved into so many things in the past, even approached kind of pop punk in some capacities, or like little ballads here or there with orchestras. But it's always just, can that song be as good as possible?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny that you say like the campfire stuff, because I can imagine these songs like just playing on a guitar and stripping them down, and they would sound, just as good as they would, plugged in with amps and
totally
that kind of stuff. And that's what I love about it. It's like, that's what makes a really good song, at least to me. If you strip it down to bare bones, it's still a good song at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Oh, I think that's another thing too, is that just making the songs like kind of like you using the example of a campfire, just making them very like not just playable, but like singable as well. Like easy melodies, very catchy melodies that people can, even if you don't quite know it, you can sing it like fairly well. And then
you can whistle it.
And then just making them like super catchy and so.
Yeah, it's and that's what I kind of noticed too. The choruses, I'm a sucker, for chorus, and I went to recording engineering school. I went to Full Sail, and I had a teacher. He would always say, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." And I know that's an old line. I sound like an old man when I say that, but like the choruses, on these songs are huge. I love the guitar work. I mean, just everything. And Dan, the way that you use your vocals, and there's a couple notes you hit where I don't really understand what that octave is or what it is, but like you use your voice on like almost a high little pitch here and there, but it's not like in the whole song. It's just like these certain parts, which I really love. It's like, oh shit, he just went there. And like, I don't even know how to describe it or what the note is or the key. I have no idea, but it's pretty cool the way that you do that.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. I don't really know, like, if I'm being honest, I was a big choir guy growing up. And so whenever it comes to vocals, I'm always, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a slut for harmonies. The more harmonies, the better. Right. And so obviously we'll have like the main melody line. And then for a good chunk of the song, I know a lot of songs nowadays, they'll like have like a lower supporting harmony or like a higher supporting harmony. But then there's us, and I'll just want to throw in like both and then have that be the entire song. And so I don't know if that's maybe what you're talking about or whatnot, but
there's a few moments where like Dan will like not screech, but he can get to like a falsetto level for the top layer, and we'll pick and choose. We're like, oh yeah, go ham, add all the layers, and then when we get to mixing, we can really be like, it doesn't work in this part, but it works right here. But then sometimes we're like, Dan, put another one in there, like just it's almost like right at the peak of his capabilities. You just kick him right in the dick and he hits it.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, all right.
I basically have a helium balloon beside me the entire time. So.
Yeah, nice little tank right there, and just hit it, and you're like, all right, I'm ready. Let's go. Take
gets the nice sparklies on top.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. And like I said, we're gonna break down some of the songs here in a little bit, but I want to kind of circle back to the beginning of Waterfront and where you guys came from in Calgary and how you guys all got together. And I know you've been putting out music since 2021, but is that when the band got together, or are you guys together for a couple more years before that, before you started actually putting out music?
No. So when so the band initially formed actually in 2019. We were initially a 3-piece. It was just me, Ryan, who's still in the band. He's the big bearded guy, and then our previous drummer Graham, who was in the band for a good chunk of time. So yeah, we were just a 3-piece, and that was back in May of 2019. And I had always had like originals beforehand, and I had always wanted to be in a band. And then I was talking with Graham one day, and finally we said it before, but I mean it's a funny story where Graham and we were actually at a Homeless in Hawaii show, which was Tanner's other band, and so we were going home from that show, and then I just said to Graham, like, oh dude, like seeing Tanner and whatnot makes me want to be in a band myself. He said the same thing. We started talking about bands we both liked, like that very pop punk kind of thing, like All Time Low, State Champs, Neck Deep, etc. Sure. And so yeah, then he was driving me home. We were just jamming, and we were just like, dude, like, do you wanna? And he was like, I'm honestly down. I knew Ryan was a really good guitarist, so basically once I got home, I messaged him being like, dude, no guarantees, but Graham and I have something going. Do you want to maybe be a part of it? And he surprisingly said yes. And we were just like, oh crap, okay, so this is actually happening. Right. Then I showed them some of the songs. They were like, these are sick. So we started having some rehearsals, just playing like the occasional gigs at whatever bars we could in the city that we lived in. And then Tanner and Devin started showing up to shows and whatnot. And then Tanner actually came to us being like, dude, like, your shit is sick. I want to be a part. Like, I can play bass and stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm down. And then Tanner knew Devin. And then Devin eventually came along, not for the first EP, but for the second EP. And so, yeah, the first EP would have been, like very late 2020, early 2021. And then
New Heights.
Yeah, New Heights, exactly. So that's when we went to Vancouver for the first time, recorded with Garrett and Dan in the Face Plants. But they also have this producer duo thing called the Renaissance. And so, yeah, we recorded that with them. So it was a couple of years after we had first formed the band that we actually started putting stuff out professionally. So.
Oh no, that's awesome. You know, and it's so funny because I've always said this with bands that haven't been together that long, that are putting out music on Spotify or whatnot, and especially in the realm that what I do here at Signal Chords. And maybe I didn't notice this until they started the podcast, but and I don't know if it has anything to do with COVID or whatnot, and people just locked themselves in the studio or writing songs or whatever. But it's like, listening to your music and listening to a lot of bands that I help promote that are on their debut album or their debut EP, it sounds like a well-oiled machine. It's like, it's really good. And usually, I remember back in the day and listening to some of my favorite bands' first records, and they're horrible. Like, that audio quality is horrible. I mean, I know technology is a lot better and you can record better and all that kind of stuff, but from what I hear from you guys and not being together and being together since 2019, your chops are really good, and and everything seems to come and sound very very natural and like seasoned musicians, and it's a kudos to you and what you guys are doing. So it's really cool to see, and like, knowing that you guys are working on a brand new album, full length. I know it's going to be pretty badass. And are there songs on this new upcoming record that are already out, or is it going to be completely all new songs?
Nothing's released yet. There's 10 songs, but as of last weekend, we finished recording every little thing, so it's just mixing now. But goddamn, those songs are good, I will say. But kind of going back to the New Heights era, I think it was COVID helped us a little bit. There's a ton of things coming together, like me joining the band, bringing Devin in from what Devin and I had previously done a lot of stuff in the city, making our own stuff or producing or putting stuff out that way. So we've always kind of kept our eye on things in Lethbridge. And then that's how we're like, okay, Dan put a band together. Let's check them out. And I actually heard when I saw them play live, they played one song that ended up on New Heights. It's Backbreaker, the closing song on the New Heights EP. And that one I actually perked up for. I was like, hey, that one's good. So I chat with them after. I'm like, that's really good. And then discussions went on. I eventually joined. But even before I met Devin, or before I went to Lethbridge, just as a kid in Calgary, since 2014, I've just been self-writing music, and it's really bad back then. Don't go listen to it. But I've just been putting music out since 2014. Right. So it's like a lot of these lessons have helped us all come together at the right moment in time. When COVID hit off, we get the invite from the Renaissance and just put all of our experience and education together, and that produced New Heights, and it went well. And we just used that as our learning curve. Okay, this is our threshold now. Anything we do next has to just be a little bit better. And that's been the approach overall. And then all of us we're in a music program for audio digital recording. So that also probably helped us among where most bands are just musicians and maybe one's an accountant or something. Like all five of us are like music students, more or less. So unique factors.
Especially being in digital audio too. I think that kind of led us, like all 4 or 5 of us, to really have a knack for just quality of audio. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I love bands that, their first couple albums, EPs or whatever, has that more like raw, like they did, like DIY kind of sound. Nothing against that. And obviously you gotta start somewhere. But
Yeah.
I think for us, we always had a knack for really making sure that it was like we put out good stuff, but it also sounds like quality.
Yeah.
And so that was always a big thing for us. And yeah, like New Heights, like I said, again, going to Vancouver, it sounded dope. And so when we recorded it, we were floored. We were like, this is the stuff we're making for like our first EP. Like it blew our minds. So
Yeah.
Can I swear on the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. There's definitely old Waterfront songs when we had just kind of like, I hadn't even joined the band yet, and me and Devin are like, oh, let's record them a bit or see what they have going with these old demos. There's some private files here. If anyone's ever interested or wants to hear them, they're dog shit. It's just cancerous. They're awful. Yeah. They won't see the light of a public day, let's say, but privately, anyone can come take a gander at the real original start.
maybe if God forbid, like something does happen and like, yeah, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, we actually get to be like very successful and almost it's just kind of like a fun thing. Like these were the first ever things. Here you go. Like no anticipation for any sort of thing, but
drop it on April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Nice little bonus track.
That would be amazing. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Here comes our next biggest hit, the biggest piece of shit we made 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like Saint Anger. It's like, you know, it comes out, it's all like snare drum.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah, it's you know, like I said, it sounds great. What you guys are doing is awesome. Now, when you guys record, where do you guys record at? And are you guys pushing all the buttons, or do you guys have a producer or an engineer that does everything for you guys?
It's been different each time. New Heights and Fever Dream, done almost a year apart, was with the Renaissance. So that was in a studio in Vancouver. Sleep in the Cold, we went up to Edmonton, Alberta, worked with Quinn Sarankovich. He produced that album, did all the button pressing, all that stuff. He's in Royal Tusk up in Canada, pretty prominent rock band. But this time for this album, so we've gone through 3 years of learning. We have our education. For the first time, this album, we did everything ourselves. And that means like Devin in our band, he's got a really good home setup. It's when people say they have a home studio, Devin's is definitely just above what you would typically expect by a good margin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've done everything there. Our university actually allowed us back just to take a week out of like during the Christmas season here when the students weren't in. They allowed us to come use the studio for the drums, because drums is the one thing that's like, that's hard to do at home. So we got invited back, spent a week there. I went up with Devin and our drummer, hammered out the drums. Everything else was just in-house studio, and Devin's mixing it. And then we're going to outsource the mastering, similar to the other projects. But it's right level to level. I'm glad we finally got to this point. It was always an end goal. Can we do this ourselves one of these days? We've learned enough. Let's do it this time. Let's take that leap of faith.
And while we do have a knack for quality and stuff, we also do personally have a knack for still like that human element, because I know obviously bands nowadays, like sometimes when they record drums, they usually just like me personally, I know some of my buddies that are in bands that just use MIDI drums, and that's fine. But we just kind of really wanted to get that like human feel. So the fact that we were able to go back into the studio and record the drums there, I was ecstatic. I was floored.
Yeah.
So
It's the room where the band essentially began. Full circle moment in a poetic way.
Oh, at that school.
Yeah.
No, and that's so cool. Yeah, we have a Full Sail here where I went for recording engineering, and they had, they would have bands and all that kind of stuff come in, and we would, like, one of our projects is to record an EP, right? Like it's a 4-song, and we would record like 4 songs, whatever, and mix and master it and all that kind of stuff. And I remember just going, man, this is a process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
if you like, mastering is like, it just blew my mind, like how you like match up everything. I can only imagine what mastering that guy he has to get paid, man.
Yes. He will be getting paid.
What's that?
Mastering is that's the final. That can make or break something. The mastering agent will be paid. The check will be cut.
Yeah. I always get a good laugh from those. I don't know if it's AI, but those like auto mastering things. And every time everything that comes out of that just sounds horrible. So
really,
I always get a good laugh out of it.
I haven't checked it out. That's what do you think about it? What do you think? Speaking of which, what do you think about AI and technology as far as bands and all that kind of stuff, and writing songs and and or coming up with lyrics or whatever, do you like you use it? Do you welcome the technology, or does it scare the shit out of you saying that, oh my God, we're putting all this work when somebody who has a computer can make any song or any of that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts on that?
We
don't use it.
Yeah, we don't really, we don't use it, but I think that's also just because a lot of people are so torn by it, but we just don't really think of it too much because we still like what we do. I think so many people, they think of other bands, and it's just like, oh, you're using this, and it's like making songs. Right. We just genuinely like what we do. Like, we don't feel the need to use it. And so, yeah, it's never been the forefront of our.
There's a unique way that it is a part of us in a tiny bit. Like, broadly speaking, I'm neutral on it. I use it at work. I think it's really helpful in certain things. And then sometimes I'll put a prompt in. I'm like, oh God, it's like you're talking to Siri again in 2010. But what I will say, art wise, because you have to make singles for art and an album art, we don't just go to AI and type something in. But by and large, for the last few projects, my fiance has been doing the art for everything. Oh, awesome. More or less. So we're ahead of the game on this album. Like, we're trying to catch everything up. So like when a release comes, everything's good to go. But we're making these big pieces of art, and it's not just putting prompt, but sometimes you're like, this little part right here could, not giving something away. I want to put like a cooler, like where you put your beer in. I want to put a cooler right here. Okay, well, we'll get that prompt from an AI thing that generates it in Illustrator, but then we just cut that out and use that as a collage piece in our own. So we're still artistically making something, but we're getting maybe parts of those elements through AI just to speed it up. Like, we're putting all these things. I mean, the album cover for the one we've made is like, we have the earth exploding. I won't say too much else, but the earth is like exploding. So we had to get pieces of that kind of figured out. Like, you hand draw it, then you make some other parts and add in the layers. But AI is a little bit involved there.
But not with the songwriting. Like, if AI is used for like, kind of as Tanner was saying, like that tedious stuff where, you'd rather be doing that than talking to Siri back in 2010. If it's used for like the tedious stuff, then that's fine. But in terms of the actual songwriting or recording aspect, nah.
Nothing musically comes from it. Everything, I mean, for example, the 10-song album we're releasing at some point later in this year, we've been working on this for coming up on 19 straight months. So like when you mentioned making an EP 4 songs, that's a heavy lift, but that goes longer when you're doing all this. We have our day jobs. I remember I got the first demo for one of the songs on the record. I was in New Brunswick in the summer of 2023. Now from there, it's just been all of this, but to the point again, to the AI not being involved, it's just us in meetings and group chats shitting on the song until we all like it. We're like, that part sucks, fix that.
Yeah.
And then we all like put in ideas. We're like, this line sucks. And then everyone's like, here's my lyric idea. And then we just like, by democracy, we're like, that's 4 or 5 of us like this, therefore it goes in. And we just keep going through that process, build it up, make a version of it. We probably demo the songs in so many different ways to where like, what if we don't do this here? Oh, this old song that sucked had this cool part. Let's reinvigorate that. That would fit this song. It's just that process over and over and over. And that's just to make the final demo. And then we go into the studio, rebuild it. And sometimes you get a little extra little bits here. Like, oh, Ben's on the drum. He's doing way better than what we wrote on MIDI. That's sick. Keep it. That kind of, that's our approach. No AI involved. AI is not dumb enough to reach Waterfront's level of how we communicate and make songs better. We're not eloquent. We're just like, that sucks.
So to be a member of Waterfront, you have to have thick skin if you're going to be able to tell a band member that sucks. Is that what you're telling me, Tanner?
Dude, that's like our mantra. I mean, Dan, you can fill in too. Like, we can be pretty hard on ideas until we, like, objectively speaking, until we're like, are we happy with this? Like, am I going to be proud of this when I'm 60 and showing my grandkids despite any success? That's my ultimate goal every time. Yeah, I want to be proud of it. Therefore, someone else will like it as well. Sure. But just because I wrote it and it came from the heart, that doesn't always therefore mean it's good.
Sure. Yeah, I honestly remember back when, way back when we were still recording the first EP. So Backbreaker, when it was initially again, we were still a 3-piece. Backbreaker was an almost 5-minute song with a whole other section in it.
I hated it.
Yeah. And so when we were going to record that, we still liked the song, but then they really shortened it and they cut out that whole section. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like I hate this so much. Like this process sucks. But then I kind of like got into it and I was like, wait, no, this is actually really good. And so I've definitely like, oh my God, if you talk to me like 6 years ago, I probably would have been like, no, like I'll always accept input, but you know, I want the bones of the song to be the initial bones. But now I'm just like, or another example, even for the most like recent EP was Sleep in the Cold. I remember it was the day before we were recording the vocals for Atmosphere, and I'm not gonna lie, I had nothing. We had the first little parts in like that sort of acoustic guitar part, and then the second part again kind of like that slower part, but we had none of the big vocals. Like we didn't have anything. And so I remember I was trying to come up with something, but I just couldn't. And then Tanner and Devin, they started working on just like, you know, kind of some, like as Tanner was saying, like stuff from previous songs, like keeping it as like a double entendre, you know, making it like super intricate. I go to the bathroom, I take a shit, and I'm trying to write.
This is a legendary shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to just like write some lyrics. I hear the song as they're playing it in the room next to me, just trying to use that. 15 minutes go by, and then basically the lyrics that are on the song are what came out of the shit that I had that took 15 minutes.
Dude, it was crazy. Like,
that's awesome.
Me and Devin were there, like we're like, holy fuck, Atmosphere is falling apart. We gotta fix, like, tomorrow we commit to something. And I was like, it's the final, we knew it was the closing song on this 5-song EP, Sleep in the Cold. And I was like, fuck, if we don't have something. I was like, Keeping You Alive was one of my favorites on the album, and I knew that one would like kind of strike some chords when you heard it in full or alone. I was like, let's do a reprise of Keeping You Alive now in the key of Atmosphere to kind of close it out. And we're like, that's okay, that's the backup plan. We'll go that route. And Dan's like, I have no clue. And he goes and takes his shit. 15 minutes later, literally, he comes out whistling something, and we like put our guitars down. We're like, what the fuck were you just doing? Like, that's perfect. Where was that this whole time? And then we tracked it the next day.
I am not going to listen to the song Different ever again. Oh, Jesus.
It's still one of my favorite stories. And basically anytime we record now, I always start with a shit just to see if any ideas come out of my...
We joke about it all the time. When we get stuck and we're like, okay, that's not working. Dan, hit the can.
Yeah.
Literally.
There should be like a sticker or a t-shirt, like a waterfront t-shirt. Dan hit the can.
It's literally just a toilet.
I'm gonna make notes in my head for that.
Or like the poop emoji.
Waterfront toilet paper.
Oh, that's gold. That's gold.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be amazing. Oh, that's so... All right, so speaking of the EP, Sleep in the Cold, let's talk about some of these songs. And kind of break them down and your thought process on some of these songs. And I wrote a couple notes. They're not very technical notes, just as a fan perspective. Let's start with I Want to Run. I love the intro. The chorus is huge. I think this is like, I could hear this on the radio. It's one of those.
Thank you.
Really, I mean, any one of these songs could be on the radio for sure. And I'm sure that they might be, or maybe they are now. But let's talk about I Want to Run and where that all came from and what it's all about.
Yeah, so that one actually started, so the riff, like the intro, that actually started with a song that we were trying to record for the second EP, Fever Dream.
Oh, dude. And that riff, that song was called Sleep in the Cold. That was going to be on Fever Dream, and that's how we got the album name.
Yeah.
Because it became I Want to Run.
Yeah, that riff was initially called Sleep in the Cold. Versus chorus completely different from what it is now and much shittier, might I add.
Yeah, it didn't make Fever Dream for a reason.
Yeah. But also I will attribute to that so like Dan and Garrett in the Renaissance, great guys, and I love like pop punk stuff, but I think whenever it comes to a bit heavier, they're a bit more hesitant. And so when I showed them that riff, and it was a bit like, I don't know, it was heavier than what we had written. I think they were, like I say, a bit hesitant. So they kind of said, like, let's try something else. So I kept that rough demo in my laptop, but we kind of scrapped it for the time being. And then when we were recording when we emailed Quinn and we were talking about songs, I remember I like showed him the riff and I remember he loved it. And I think I just had to come up with like different lyrics and such.
Yeah. You had rewritten the verse and chorus before we showed him.
Yeah. So I rewrote the verse and chorus, And then Quinn comes along and he's like, that's sick. That's going to be a song.
Sure.
And I was kind of floored. So in reality, I'm kind of glad that, like, you know, it didn't turn out the initial way, but now the song, I think it's like our most streamed song, or like second most streamed song. So
let's talk about Ordinary Love. I love the lyrics on this, and I love the way that you're using your vocals, Dan. So let's talk about Ordinary Love.
Yeah, no. So Ordinary Love, funnily enough, in terms of the lyric writing, I basically did nothing. I think I was only the first half of the second verse of that. That was really the only thing that I attributed lyrically to that. The chorus Tanner knows more about this, but the chorus was someone else completely different.
So for Ordinary Love was basically the first song that really started fleshing out what became Sleep in the Cold as a whole project. After we finished Fever Dream, I knew everyone in the band are like metalheads. They if you think Waterfront is hardcore, they all listen to stuff that's like 10 times harder. And then I'm there kind of being like, hey, you guys like Maroon 5? So it's like, we're always kind of like compromising a bit, but I knew at the
Dying Fetus,
literally, yes. Yes, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I they put it on. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the can now. But on the tail end of Fever Dream is like, okay, at a certain point we're gonna have to pick a path. Like we can't just mix and match. And I knew that mean we're getting a 5-string bass and we're putting the 7 strings on stuff. And I knew that was going to be the path at some point. So I emailed Quinn because I had been keeping up with a band in Alberta called Calling All Captains. Really good group, but I admire the way they've made a trajectory for themselves. So I found who they produced with, and there's this guy named Quinn. So I just sent him a random email. I was like, hey, you have no idea who I am. I clearly know who you are. Do you want to work together? Kind of thing. And he was kind of really open to it. So I was like, okay, wicked. And we started chatting back and forth, talking about songs. He's like, I was checking your guys' stuff out, and I have this one thing sitting around that I think would be fitting. And it was a rough early version of just what happened to be what became then the Ordinary Love chorus. So I had kind of already started moving pieces in this direction quietly for Waterfront, and they were still under the impression we would go back to Vancouver a third time. So with Quinn and stuff, he says oh, let's flesh this out. I ended up writing the rest of the lyrics for it, and then Dan punched up the second verse there. And once the song came together, we're like, okay, we definitely have to continue. Like, this is the guy. And then from there, it was, all right, now you're going to get all these ideas we're sitting on. Dan's idea for Sleep in the Cold, or I Want to Run, that became I Want to Run. And then we fleshed out the other 4 collectively.
So breathe in, breathe out, and try and hope that this works out. It's not your fault that I've been circling our doubts. While you're giving in, while I'm giving out a dose of ordinary love. Know that I'm not good enough.
Is there a time in creating music where you guys aren't on the same page or same level, or having writer's block, or it's just like, all right, let's just
all the time. Like Tanner and I, it's a very love-hate relationship. Like Tanner and I definitely fight the most about, not like fight, but definitely butt heads when it comes to lyrics, and trying to make sure that the song is still at that 3 minutes 15 mark and doesn't go past like 4 or 5 minutes, etc. But no, it's good because it I don't know, that's basically how Sleep in the Cold happened, where it's just the culmination of events where Tanner and I butt heads, but I know that it's because we both want this the best outcome or the best lyrics for the song. So
you want to challenge each other, right? And never be lackadaisical and just say, just dial it in. And
there's a song on Fever Dream called 3 Years Later. This is one of the hills Dan tried to die on. It ended up being our #1 stream song to this date, although it's not what our future holds.
No, not at all.
Thematically or style wise. But at the time, he's like, I want it to be acoustic. And I remember being like, what the fuck are you talking
Yeah.
about? Drums and guitars, everything. He's like, no, acoustic. I was like, we're doing it. I mean, I was just like, record his vocals. We'll play everything underneath anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like in hindsight, we start realizing like, okay, these are good ideas and all this stuff. I'm not perfect by any means. I come up with some dumb ideas that Dan and Devin will be like, that's dumb. I'm like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy to hear stories about how everything comes together, and like I said, it's not an easy process. When you're dealing with five different guys and 5 different opinions and all that kind of stuff, and you really got to have a really kind of good friendship and understanding of each other, right? To be able to put out the best work that you can, right?
We're really lucky that of the group, like having like again, you are right in Waterfront. Privately inside, we all have thick skin. We have to, more or less, because we can laugh stuff off too. But it's like when we take the feedback in, we're like, yeah, you're right. Actually, it's just like everyone just like, yep, that works. Move. No one ever gets bitchy or like kind of vindictive. No one's like that. We're all like adults basically. The most of us are now nearly 30, so it's just like we're like, yeah, it's to us, it's a job, a business in a way on the side.
Sure.
So it's like, what's the best for us right now, basically, and then we just chat through that, and then have some jokes in between.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the catalyst. I love the riffs in this song, and I love the whisper vocals. I love it when it's that the verse is just kind of that whispery kind of low end, and then it just breaks out into that the big stuff. Let's talk about the catalyst.
Yeah, so that one, if I'm not mistaken, that was actually just a riff that like opening da 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 da. That was just a riff that Quinn had, I'm pretty sure, just kind of lying around. And he was like, I think this could fit you guys. Like, what do you think? And then he showed it to us, and we were all kind of like floored. We were just like, yes, please. And so I remember, I forget.
Devin fleshed out the big chunk and then threw in that kind of industrial synthy bridge.
Yeah.
But the riff, we had that riff as a starting point. And we just eventually turned that into like, well, clearly this is how a verse goes, chorus. And then we're like, hey, Dan, write the lyrics. Figure out we basically threw in his laps like, okay, our job's done here. Your turn to make melodies and lyrics, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. And just because the verses, it was very that kind of very quiet, like guitar, like the riff still happening in the background. I was like, okay, like I'm not going to be like yelling. So I just kind of, went for that almost kind of like if you're on the phone type vocals thing, and then you're still like whispering it. And I honestly don't know what my initial intention was behind that song. I just I'm a very like word vomit kind of guy, and so I think because I know the first line is like it's in the atmosphere. I think I still had the previous lyrics from like Atmosphere in my mind, and so I kind of went off that. And then like I said, there's no like crazy story behind the catalyst. It was honestly just kind of like a word vomity kind of thing.
We did kind of fix that up where you initially did. I have a demo of Catalyst somewhere where the lyrics are all over the place. Like he's kind of saying, he's just like, oh, syllables, this works.
I do remember. There was one line
that they call it like scat.
The melodies were strong, so we're like, okay, great, this works. But let's finesse this now. It's like I remember the Catalyst of the 5 actually sticks out to me, where we paused for like three hours in a studio and like went down to the couches in the green room, had coffee with Quinn, and we went line by line and be like, this is weak. This doesn't make sense. How do we make a little cohesive story out of this? Yeah. And broadly at the time, like a lot of the songs are tied to relationship turmoils or metaphors for that. And we're like, okay, this kind of is going in a direction. The character of the song is going up against something. There's slight lyrical changes that occur over the 3 choruses that show the tiniest little narrative character development that, okay, this guy's problem is no longer his. He's like, this is actually someone else is causing me problems in my life. But that one took like, I think all 6, like the 5 band members and the producer, we went line by line in a Google Doc and just said, no, yes, no, change this. And we're throwing ideas all around. But sometimes Dan's stuff is just like, he's just like scat, like, all over the song. He's like random stuff in every direction. We're like, okay, let's connect some dots here.
You leave me broken every time. Now I have a different answer to your question. Give me peace of mind. You had me begging for my life. Hide deep in the trenches while I search the confines. Search the confines.
far as lyrically, are you guys just writing from like a third person kind of view, and it's not so much like a first person kind of a deal, or is it both? Is it a personal? Some of these songs personal, or are you just telling a story of maybe maybe it's not 100% accurate of what you went through, or you're just putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, or are some of these songs really personal to you?
I think they start from personal points, most often, Dan.
Yeah, some of them are a bit more personal, like Atmosphere, for example. It's about, just kind of about a bit of a toxic relationship where, not even just like for me specifically, but it's basically just saying like, what would you rather be doing? Like be in a toxic atmosphere or live in the atmosphere where you're just all alone, but you're at least away from that. But then, on like the complete flip side with Ordinary Love, like I said, that song, just because, it's still like emotional and it's got emotion behind it, but it's no specific ties to me. Like I said, I only wrote the like part of the second verse there. So, they still have emotion behind it, but whether it's with me or not, it's like kind of give or take. So
yeah. Well, speaking of Atmosphere, you guys had a music video for it. It's your only music video. What was the experience like working on a music video? And
that one was hard.
A lot more music videos on the new release as well.
Yeah, we want to do a much better job on the music video front for sure. Like Atmosphere, we did in my dad's garage with the lights out and a big tarp up, and a lot of the footage didn't turn out great because it was kind of a reflective tarp, and we're like, oh, that's kind of cool. But as soon as the camera panned that way, you can start to see how DIY it is in certain things. So we really started to chop it up. We're like, hey, which parts of this looks like it was done professionally, and then we framed the video around that. The silhouette shots ended up working really well because behind the silhouette is all the garbage stuff we didn't really get to. So that was kind of like a learning curve, DIY, like hey, Frankenstein this together into something that works. But going forward, we want to change that.
And then the shots that we did where I'm just like wearing a helmet with a sweater in the like woods and whatnot, that was
fun actually.
That was pretty fun. It was just it was very random because obviously with that helmet, I already can't really see the best in that. So when it was a bit colder and my breath would constantly fog up the thing, I remember they literally wanted me to like get a shot of me just walking through the field. But I think we had to do it like 2 or 3 times because every single time I would trip over something and it would just look so stupid.
This is in a public park. It's called Fish Creek Park in Calgary, Alberta. Yeah. And like people are walking their dogs like 10 feet that way. And Dan's in an astronaut helmet walking around. My fiance is holding the camera and I'm screaming at him from behind, be like, a little more to the left, a little more. And then it gets darker. So her and I are flashing 4 different flashlights onto Dan's face to make it look. We wanted to be like that footage was meant to be like, oh, Blair Witch found footage horror style, kind of add something to. We did the like 3 months apart. We did the astronaut stuff, and we're like, eventually we'll do performance shots, which was the garage stuff. But it was so crazy. Like, people walking around like, what's going on over there? You guys okay?
Yeah.
Is the astronaut man bothering you guys?
Yeah. And we did want to go with that because we do have the astronaut on the EP cover thing. And so we wanted to do something with that. We didn't want to just do like the tarp.
Make a character out of him.
Yeah. And so that's why even like to this day, I'll still wear it to some live shows. But I do still have that astronaut helmet. And like even Tanner was kind of teasing like with the new, like it's the Earth exploding. I won't say anything more either, but it's the kind of
the astronaut iconography has seemingly tied itself for the long term. He will be our little mascot. Yes.
So it's going to be like Incubus, the guy with the mustache, like on the albums.
Yes, you will see Mr. Astronaut shows up from time to time, and he will continue to do so.
Yeah.
No, I love it. No, you got to go with a theme, man. You stick with it, right?
We just got to name him. I don't know what to call him. Just like Buzz Lightyear, basically. I don't know what to call him.
But not that.
Well,
no, that's copyrighted.
Yeah.
Well, what you do is kind of like the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. They had a guy to just dance it on stage. You just get somebody else to wear the mask.
Genius.
And jump around on the stage, so you don't have to wear it, but he's still up there.
Yeah. That was one thing I was thinking of, is that we just get a mic stand that it's not connected to a mic, but maybe I'll just like stick the helmet onto it, so that way it still looks like it's there. But
Yeah.
Right.
The Water Boy.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's last song. Let's talk about Keeping You Alive. This is one of my favorites too as well. I love the bass sound, the bass tone. Tanner, job well done on
Thank
on
you.
this. The chorus is amazing, and the guitar solo. Is that Devin on there?
That
just
is
ripping
Devin.
it
Yes,
up?
That
sir.
solo is from the demo. He nailed it so good on the demo.
Yeah.
Kept the same file, put it right in the final mix.
Yeah, that is it. That song blew me away. I mean, like the guitar work, the bass sound, the chorus. I mean, everything about it. It's an amazing song on its own. Let's what's the song about? Is it this a personal one, or is this just a third person kind of view?
Yeah, so this one is a bit of a personal one as well, because I just
Yeah.
I don't know, I've noticed, well, not noticed, but there's been a very big resurgence in terms of like mental health and stuff, and
Sure.
that is important. And I almost kind of, when I was in university, I had like I did some theater stuff, I was in some plays, and so I do like to create characters almost in my brain of like certain storylines. And I almost kind of created this whole scenario where it's like there's two people, and one person is very like down in the dumps, like they're just not doing well and they're sucking at life and whatnot, but they're almost bringing like their best friend or whatever, or like you could attribute to a partner as well. They're just bringing that person down with them, basically. And it's like you feel bad for that character and it sucks. And then they kind of get to a point where this is where the bad character kind of hits rock bottom. And then you're just saying like, dude, like, I'm not going to be around forever if this is what you're going to keep doing, because I genuinely feel like I'm the one keeping you alive. So that was kind of the thing that I had in my mind, where it's like, and again, not to like bash on mental health, like that's important. But yeah, just kind of like the character, like the story that I had in my mind, I was like, yeah, if you're with someone that is dragging you down and they get to that point and you feel like the one that's like keeping you alive, that's kind of the initial thought process that I had in my head.
I'll be gone forever. Pick up the mess you made, 'cause I won't be the one to fix your mistakes. 'Cause the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and bring me down to size. You want me, but it's hard to take your side, and I've been keeping you alive.
We really like that idea. There was a moment where we, not for lack of trying, more lack of budget and maybe a little bit of time. The music video, we wanted to center around basically exactly what Dan's talking, in more a metaphoric sense. Where I don't know if you've seen the movie Nosferatu recently. We've always looked at that song, or at least some of us, or broadly, as a metaphor. There's a vampire sucking the life force out of someone. You're, as the human, you're keeping this toxic being alive. And we wanted to do a music video that conveyed that kind of thing. But in my head, that's how I've continued to always look at keeping you alive in that metaphoric sense. The two entities, like he says, you're just being sucked of everything good for someone who keeps making the bad decisions in life.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite relatable on all fronts, right? I mean, I think anybody could pretty much relate to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and
So
that's kind of the cool thing, is that like yeah, you obviously want to like help the character who's struggling, but there's only so much you can give before it really starts to take a toll on you. So
yeah. That's incredible. All right, let's talk about the new music on the way. I know you guys, we've talked about it before. When can we expect this 10-song debut LP? Is it could be later on towards the holidays, or is it summer release? Or what are you guys shooting for, or can you say right now?
Good questions at large. I'm honestly not sure yet, but before the year is over, there's a likelihood it could be fall. And if we, because we want to get some singles out in time as well beforehand.
Sure.
So I'm not sure. I think there's discussions trying to make it happen for maybe at most late summer, maybe early summer. It really depends how a few other things line up with mixing, mastering, music videos elsewise. But I'd say fall is a healthy expectation. Could change, and maybe we could surprise with a little bit of early stuff. But it's good.
Any ETA on a song from it coming anytime?
Oh, you'll likely get the first song. I have no dates. the first single likely before the summer. I would like to likely before June, maybe on or before June is
Awesome.
my current opinion.
So are you going to be on Affiant Records as well on this one, teaming up
Yep.
with Kate and
Yes.
everybody on Affiant?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I want to get a vinyl made.
Dude, that would be awesome. I'll be first in line to get it, dude, for sure. But shout out to Kate for setting it up. This interview. So yeah,
they're the best.
With her. Yeah, they're great. How did you guys get connected with Affiant Records?
As our manager at the time, I guess him and William knew each other, and just randomly, we had made Sleep in the Cold, and I knew there was, like, I was like, we got to sit on this until we can release it through some kind of official capacity. I wanted to be signed in some way or approach it differently than we had, where the first 2 EPs, it's like when you're making music, any artist, you're just independently making it and you're throwing it into a dark corner, screaming at friends and family, be like, make sure you check this out and share it. So it's like by Sleep in the Cold, we'd already done that twice, and some do well, some don't. So it's just like, we're like, these 5 are really good. We sat on it. Like, Sleep in the Cold was done and mastered probably a year and a half or more before it was fully released. Way long.
Oh, wow.
So we're sitting on it, and our manager had it, and I guess he was speaking to William. And at the time, Affiant was just looking to, like, we need a rock band on our roster. And it was just perfect timing. It was really just the stars aligning. Yeah. Jumped on a call with them, chatted more. And the rest is history in that capacity. And it's just been every week we're just touching base, working towards basically what's been this album, a few other things in between, and just developing into a stronger future and seeing what the future holds.
Absolutely.
Basically, awesome. And they've been so sick, especially just it's been so nice going from, like, before we were signed, as kind of Tanner said, like some songs do well, some songs don't. But just ever since we got signed to them and we released Sleep in the Cold, we saw like immediate growth. And what was nice too is that it felt natural. Like, it didn't feel just like bots or anything. It was like people were actually reaching out. They're saying like, oh my God, yeah, no, this is sick. And we were floored. We were just like, wait, really? So
is this like, finally, someone's hearing this, and it's not my friend because I texted him 10 times.
Yeah, it's like, tag 3 friends in my comments, blah, 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 tag them, make sure, it's like that shit gets exhausting after a while.
It only goes so far too. It's just like these songs, there's audience for these songs, and it was just a matter like, we don't know how to find them. So we needed somebody, and that turned out to be William and Kate, who are just chef's kiss.
Yeah. And it's nice too, because especially being in a country like Canada, where it, like, if you start a band that's based out of like LA or New York or something like that, at least like when you start out, you have your main hub, and then you have so many other hubs that are within like 2 to 3 hour drives. With us, the nearest city is Edmonton. That's like of a comparable size. The next closest place is 12 hours away. And so it's just to try to play live and whatnot. It really is not just money taxing, but just mentally taxing.
Yeah, there's a lot of land between opportunities.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, that must be so difficult as a band trying to get out and make a name for yourself, right? You don't have that access to be able to play everywhere, and you got to kind of like dedicate. And you guys all have jobs and all that kind of stuff, and scheduling, and trying to get everything together and all that kind of stuff. It seems to be a challenge, but having having your back and being able to help promote it and you get that following, and it gets you on the bill, with some bands that are touring and all that kind of stuff that are going through Canada. Now, speaking of which, Dream Tour, if you could describe your dream dream bands. Nickelback, is that was that your favorite?
Is this for Waterfront to play with? Sorry, I cut you off. Or just
yeah.
Oh yeah, Nickelback and Billy Talent. That's my choice. Us too.
Yes, I love Billy Talent.
Dude, they're my favorite. I try and infuse Billy Talent to every song, to the chagrin of everyone else.
Yeah, I heard they're called the Green Day of Canada. Is that
pretty much? Yeah, I would say that's accurate
assessment.
Well, I'd almost say that Sum 41 is more the Green Day of Canada, but Billy Talent's Billy Talent's definitely up there. So, for me personally, I think like
Billy Talent, love you.
I don't know. It's kind of I'm torn either. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Since I saw that 3 Days Grace was making a comeback, and I love 3 Days Grace, I've loved them since I was a child. It would have to be either them or maybe like Muse or like the new Linkin Park. So that's like Dream. like ultimate dream. So
Yeah, I mean those are heavy hitters right there. I could see you guys on, even with Bullet for My Valentine. I could see you guys on that bill as
that
well.
also, that'd be sick. So
I would say yes. I would humbly be like, thank you for the consideration. I'll think about this for all of 1 millisecond. Yes.
Yeah, well, they're on tour
yeah,
with,
me and all the
Awareness.
guys are like, me and all the guys are just like screaming to Tears Don't Fall, and Tanner's just like, what tears are they talking about?
He's like, but I know falling leaves on the ground. You know, for
Dude,
Billy
yes.
Yeah.
Literally. I'll be like, you guys hear Mariana's Trenches album?
Talent. No, I have a funny story. So my buddy went to go see Billy Talent, and and they came here. They came to the House of Blues or something, and
Nice.
And I was like, how were they, man? Were they fucking awesome? And he's like, bro, they were amazing. But all I can like imagine is Terrence and Phillip from freaking South Park. Because the singer's like, and it's like the way, just the way he's like, that's all I could think about, like the whole show. I'm like, they're great. But I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Billy Talent. I figured I'd tell you that funny story because every time I hear Billy Talent, I always think of Terrence and Phillip from
Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to think about that now. I've seen Billy Talent like every single time they've come to Calgary since I was a kid, basically. I've lost count of how many times I've seen them live. First band I ever fell in love with.
Yep.
I've played every single one of their songs on bass. Like I've learned a lot of my technique comes from just stealing stuff from Billy Talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're known for that bass, man. That bass is rolling.
Dude.
Yeah,
throughout
Jonathan
all the
Gallant, I think's his name. He's wicked. He
Yeah.
plays with fingers on everything. It's beautiful.
That's so
Yeah.
crazy. It's so
I got a
fast,
Stingray
too.
just because of him. I wanted it to look just
really?
like his. I want the white Stingray with the black thing, and it took a while. And I finally got it. It was my holy grail. And then they're like, "Hey Tanner, you need to get a 5-string now."
Yeah.
Oh.
And then for the
So
next
there's-
album, we want him to get a headless. So
Oh,
No, I want the headless one. It's a lot lighter.
yeah.
yeah. Well,
No,
they're
I only
good
saw
with the
Billy
robot
Talent.
theme.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I only saw Billy Talent for the first time last year. I'd only I always listened to them and I always loved their stuff. But obviously I lived in Lethbridge, which is a much smaller city, and no one comes to play there. And so when I moved to Calgary and I saw that they were actually playing the Stampede, I don't know if you've ever been, but they were playing the Stampede at the Coke stage. And so I went to go see them, and yeah, they tore it the heck, we can swear. They tore it the fuck up. I actually remember there was one show. It was a while ago. It was a couple of years, but it was someone's birthday in the crowd, and they literally like brought a cake for the band.
It was
and
this
so
sound guy. I was at that one. So
nice.
it was another Stampede show. The audio engineer, I guess, if you're a touring band of that history, they've been doing this for so long that you get to know everyone a little bit. And let's just call him Jim. They're like, hey, we know it's Jim's birthday, and they brought a cake out. It's just in the Calgary Stampede, you have multiple big bands playing every single night, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was something kind of unique for them to keep track of. They had a cake. Their little guy came out, and the crowd. We crowd surfed it from the stage to the sound guy at the back. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Dude, it's something to think about, and some, great freaking memory, dude, of that. And I love it when bands like do that and show respect and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, so what's next for you guys in the short term for the band, and what can people expect here in the near future besides your full length coming later this year?
Yeah, lots of songs, and get back into shows. It's been this last stretch of the album has just been all hands on deck. So time to get back into the jam room, learn up some of the songs again, get it up to shape where we're performing it all collectively and how it's finally been made, those pieces. So a little learning curve there, perfecting a little more. You can never, every day you can get a little better. So just practicing more, all that stuff, and line up some shows. Come see how far we can get from Calgary and kind of do those 12-hour drives.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many PTO days you got to take off of work just to play those shows? You know what I mean? Like, because you got to do all the travel. You think about like 2 or 3 days of travel or whatever, and
you got to align certain stuff. That's why it's like we would love to say yes to this, but if we go all the way out there, we should string some other things towards it and kind of manage it in a way that's a benefit to us to be a touring band that promotes our project, but then is efficient use of our time to take that time off. Let's string together 2 weeks and we can hammer it out. We just need to go to the farthest point and come all the way back, or vice versa. So it's a lot of that, trying to get those ducks in a row pretty much. That probably hinders some places we could have gone. Like I would love to play Toronto, but I'm not gonna 24 hours or to put us all in a plane to do a show and come all the way back.
Because we also have buddies that we know personally that have done that, and they said that it's straight up hell. Because not only like sometimes your gear can get damaged, your gear can get stolen, and then obviously being in Canada as well. If you try to do any sort of driving that's not in the summer, well, we were talking about earlier, like driving itself is hell in winter. So let alone
I'm a good driver.
So let alone when you want to try to drive across the country, so like 4,000 clicks, like that's just insane. We definitely do have some bucket list items. Like we would love to try to get our name on like a Coke stage, even if it's like a 2 p.m. show or whatnot. Like that'd be sick. Or if we ever got the chance to go on a good tour with our buddies out to like Vancouver or something. But yeah, as Tanner said, kind of like stops along the way where it's like, because Vancouver from here is like 12 to 13 hours. So if we could pop by like Kelowna and like Kamloops and stuff like that, maybe even throwing into Edmonton in a Banff show as well. So
yeah, do you guys have a lot of friends in bands and all that kind of stuff? You can kind of tag team and go and do like a little tour.
Everyone's in their own. It's like a bunch of worlds, though. We're all in our own different worlds. We're like, oh shit, let's do something. But they're like, oh, we're timing this for this. We're like, oh, we just missed it because we have to do that a month later. So it's like kind of everyone. If we could all just sit down, like everyone take a week off work, we're gonna plan out the next 3 years together. That could have, in theory, work, but everyone's working at their own speeds. It's just a matter of, are you catching the right train at the right time and who's on that train, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck, in everything that you do. I'm super excited to hear the new music, and feel free if you ever want to send me that link or a little Dropbox link and let me hear some new jams. I'm always down for it. Wink, wink.
Like the old ones or the new ones?
The new ones.
Let's do both. Let's do both. I want to hear where you guys come full circle.
Yeah, Dan, send them anything. Our door is open.
Yeah.
Sweet. Where can people find you on the internet besides the socials? You guys got a website where they can get some merch and all that kind of stuff, shirts?
Yeah, keep track at waterfrontofficial.com. Following us on Spotify is a great way to stay in touch because everything's kind of treed in from there. You can find our social medias, but anything new, it's going to hit there first. And the more followers we get, maybe you're out there, anyone listening, and you're like, maybe I just use Apple Music. Give us a follow on Spotify anyways. It helps. If you like us, just following us on Spotify helps. That helps with releases, getting it on playlists. But then importantly, if you listen on Spotify, maybe you missed a post here or there. Everyone's busy. Everyone's got their lives. When that song drops, you're going to hear it for sure. And you don't want to miss it. Trust me. None of these new ones you don't want to miss. If you like Keeping You Alive, I Want to Run Anything Else, you haven't heard anything yet. And you haven't heard some of the heaviest shit we can do.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Dan, Tanner, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Really do appreciate it. Best of luck to you guys. And keep me posted on everything that you guys do. And if you guys need anything on my end from here on out, your podcast family. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yes, thank you, Brad.
I appreciate you
happily come anytime.